stretch.
now that we got you on, which is awesome, I guess just tell everybody your name, where you're from, and just kind of where your BWS journey started.
Sure. So I'm Kelley Jumper. Sorry it took so long. Don't know what was going on. We have a daughter, Annie, who is almost 14 months now. And we actually found out we got her diagnosis while I was still pregnant with her, which we were really thankful for. I suddenly started gaining a lot of weight in my pregnancy, and my midwife was like, "Oh, let's like try to tone back on all the food." And then the next, I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And then the next appointment that I went, she measured me, and I was like measuring 6 or 7 weeks ahead.
Wow.
And she was like, "Okay, we should go ahead and send you somewhere because this is not like you're not just kind of
Eating
big things going on." So we went to a specialist, and that first time it was really subtle, but she was able to see a lot of extra amniotic fluid, and she was able to see the baby was measuring a couple weeks ahead. So between the amniotic fluid and the size of of Annie, plus, so she was looking, and towards the very end, she was almost like, "Well, I don't know, I guess you just have a big baby." And then she just was like, "Let me check one more thing," because she was noticing that the tongue was it wasn't huge, but she could see that it was always coming outside the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go check something, and walked out of the office. So when she came back, she said, "I think it might be this thing called Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome," which I had never heard of. And so she just said sometimes the baby's bigger and they have a bigger tongue. And then she's like, "It's just all they need is a surgery." And that was kind of maybe all she knew. So she knew enough to diagnose it, but maybe she just didn't even know more than that. But I'm thankful for that. But it didn't prepare me. I was like, "Okay, I guess we have this thing." And she said there are some potential concerns at birth, like low blood sugar. She didn't know that also because she told us I was going to have my baby at a birthing center, but she said we're going to need to have the baby at like a hospital with a NICU. And so just started wrapping my brain around changing plans for that. But other than that, that's kind of all I knew. And so she sent me home, and then I started trying to research a little bit more about it and started seeing like high risk of cancer and all these other things. And so it kind of hit me a little bit later, like, oh, this is like an actual genetic disorder that has, it's not just this, oh, she has a big tongue that we'll fix later, but there's a little more involved with that. And so that's kind of where it started. That was probably, I don't know, I think maybe like around 25 weeks or something. So I still had a good bit of time. And so then it was kind of just a waiting game to see how she was going to be. We knew she had a larger tongue, knew she was a little bigger, and knew to expect the low blood sugar and things like that. And so I had her right at 37 weeks. And she wasn't huge. They thought that she was at least 9 pounds by then, but she was almost 38 pounds. So she was on the bigger side for 37 weeks, but not crazy at all. And but she did have the low blood sugar, and we were in the hospital for just a few days. She was just, I don't know, defying the odds. It's like just so amazing how quickly we just had to be there for longer. And she just after a few days was normalized, and with her tongue it was enlarged, but it's not like huge. It's on the milder side. And they were really, specifically with the low blood sugar, they were really concerned with making sure she was getting enough food. And so we were doing these scheduled feedings, and once they started letting me breastfeed more and nurse her, it was they wanted to kind of try to gauge how much she was actually eating and is she actually getting, especially with her food or with her tongue. And once they did like a pre-feeding weigh in and a post-feeding, and they were like wouldn't believe how they were like, there must be something wrong with the scale because of how much, how many ounces she ate in that feeding. And I was like, I think she's just eating really well. And so it was really for us, and I know this is not the case for so many, we didn't really know what to expect. And for us, the start of the journey was pretty simple, and her tongue did not interfere with her nursing or feeding, and she was able to do that really well. And so we went home after 5 days.
That's awesome.
And then even though she wasn't huge at birth, she's like pretty much off the charts all the time. So I think that her last appointment, she's still pretty off the charts for height, and she's quite large, but I think she's like thinning out a little bit, but she's still 14 months old and wears like 3-year-old clothing. And but she's great. We love her.
Oh, so she she hasn't had any breathing issues or anything like that?
Not that we know of. I was listening to one of these segments a while back, and just talking about, we've never had a sleep study or anything, and she does do, like, she snores at night and things like that, and consider maybe we need to look at that. She is getting a tongue reduction surgery just because any of the doctors that we have seen have where her tongue naturally lies is like outside of her mouth, and so they suspect that it could likely lead to jaw and the teeth problems and jaw problems. And so we decided to go ahead and get it done because we'd rather do that now than have the risk of those more like difficult surgeries later in life. And so I don't know if there's like, if she does have any sort of sleep things that that will resolve it anyways, but we've never had any indication about with her sleep.
When
otherwise, go ahead.
When is she gonna get her surgery done? Did they say how old or?
Yeah, that's actually been a journey because she was supposed to have it back in December, but we've had some really big ups and downs with insurance, and just, I'll spare all the details, but we finally actually got to see a new surgeon yesterday, and they approved her. And
good.
So I meant to call today, and other things happened, but I'll probably call tomorrow to schedule something maybe in a month or two.
Yeah.
So that's coming soon.
That has been one of the biggest things that people have been saying, is that insurance is such, I think because it's not known, and like insurance is just like, no, and you're like, what do you know?
That's exactly what happened. They first denied it, and then later they approved it as an outpatient procedure. And we were like, she needs to stay in the ICU. There's no way she's home straight after that. And so we had we were going to have this like trial, like hearing thing, get it approved. And I received all these documents from the insurance company, and they had, it's all hard to decipher anyways, but what I could tell is they were categorizing her surgery under some sort of like, this is supposed to repair a problem with snoring or something. It wasn't even, they didn't have tongue reduction surgery.
Oh my God.
As any sort of category. And so what they categorized it as was something that you would only do as an outpatient procedure. So it was like, they didn't even have a category of this procedure. And so that was really frustrating. And that's why it kept dragging out until she's not on that insurance anymore, and now we have to kind of start the whole thing over. So
it's so frustrating. I mean, we luckily we haven't had any issues. Well, sometimes we'll get like calls about like because I don't know how every state works, but I'm in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania he qualifies for like loophole medical insurance. So he has insurance through my husband's job, and then he has medical assistance through PA. So sometimes we'll get phone calls like, oh, this is like a bill that you owe that we don't actually owe, but we've never had the difficulties that so many people are having. And I just can't even imagine that being added on to your plate. Like when you're just trying to give your child the care that they need and they're telling you no.
Right.
I would get so angry. I'm like
Yeah,
angry for you guys. It's crazy.
it's been a struggle, and that's where there are times that I feel like it took me a while to get to that really frustrated place. And then finally, once it continued for a long time, there's finally a point where I was just beginning to feel much more helpless or hopeless or frustrated. And that's just through this whole process where I've had to constantly go back and remember like that my trust is in the Lord and that He knows what's going on. And so I know I shared with you that our faith and how that has played a part of this journey has been really huge and impactful. And so even in those frustrations, there's been times that have reminded me to um, be able to trust that God has a good plan.
Yeah.
Even if I can't see it and don't understand it. And so that's been the struggle, but part of how we've been able to continue on without getting overly anxious or upset.
Do you think that strangers notice that she has a larger tongue, or do you think she, by all accounts, no one would know that she had with?
We get comments a lot. Typically, they're not. When she was younger, especially, and it was. I feel like when she was really young, and it was just always hanging out, and she didn't really have any control or practice like bringing it in or anything.
Right.
It was a little more of like typically there's only a couple times where I felt like someone was kind of rude about it, but typically people say like, little comments, but we got comments all the time about her tongue out or like, oh, don't stick that tongue out at me or something, something like that. And so I know like, okay, let's
Yeah, it's hard.
I can be sensitive about that, but I can just know like no one's meaning to be insensitive. They don't know that there's something going on there, and so it's just to them, a cute thing that they can say about the baby. But and so now, even still now that like someone will comment a little, but it's she socially is like, I don't know if she's just becoming more aware or just practices. She can kind of like tuck it into her mouth. Or when she's real smiley, then it's just her whole mouth is open anyway, so it's not as noticeable that it's like not fitting in her mouth. But so yeah, it's been some. It has, like I said, hers is on the milder side, so it's not like whoa something's wrong. It's more just like, oh, she's always sticking her tongue out. That's kind of cute. But it doesn't look like a huge tongue or something. But,
right. It's interesting because I wonder if they didn't see her like notice her tongue on the ultrasound, if they would have diagnosed her ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that made the specialist be able to think, oh, there's that one,
thing
disorder, their tongue, because like I said, she was really close to just kind of saying, I think maybe you just have a big baby, because there was not really anything else going on otherwise. And so so I was really, really thankful that we got that diagnosis and we were able to be prepared and learn all about it before we had her. And then either, didn't know ever for a long time or be really confused and get a diagnosis later. And
because you might not have known for a little bit with her if her tongue isn't that bad. It could have been, you could have just been like, oh yeah, she just has it out a lot, or
yeah, I might have. I mean, it's certainly noticeable, but it might have been a little while before I would have been like, this just isn't normal, or And her blood sugar, I don't know if, I just don't know how that would have gone if we had her in the, at the birthing center, and then we would have been sent home that day, and
Right.
would I have known, would she have recovered okay without the assistance of the hospital?
Yeah.
I have no. So I'm thankful, and I know that some people don't know. I mean, a lot of people don't know before, and so
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, I feel like most of the people that know before are the people whose babies have the omphalocele with their organs on the outside. Um,
yeah.
I feel like because Owen's tongue was noticed on his ultrasound, and he was huge. I mean, I was so big. I was like a whole nother level. And I mean, I was big with my other son. He was a big baby. He was 8'13". But I mean, I just knew. I'm like, this is a whole different level of huge. I mean,
That's, I mean, even though Annie wasn't huge, that's exactly like, because I had a son who was 9 pounds, 4 ounces, and I was just so much bigger. And I was like, something is, I mean, from the very beginning, I was like, I have twins or something, like something.
yeah,
And it just so much heavier. And I even comparing pictures of when I was like 40 weeks with my 9 pound son and 35 weeks with Annie, I was so much bigger even at 35 weeks than at 40 weeks with.
yeah, it's crazy. And like they kept on saying to me, "Are you sure you're not a diabetic? Like, are you sure you don't have diabetes?" I'm like, "No." I mean, you guys have tested so many times. And
Yeah.
they didn't think of BWS though when I mean, even when they saw his tongue, they were like, "Oh, he's sticking his tongue out." And I have the ultrasounds, and I remember getting them and being like, "That whole thing is his tongue." Like I was like, "It's half the screen. It's so big."
Yeah, because your son had like
It was
like it was
big.
significant, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like we didn't even know what his bottom lip looked like. It
Oh,
took up like the whole bottom.
wow.
So at
Wow.
7 weeks old, he had his tongue reduced. Um, and I think he'll need another one. Like it's grown
Mm,
since then, and his bottom teeth, like I was looking at him today, because he smiles all the time. So it's like back a lot. But like if you look at him from the side, his bottom teeth are like going straight
okay.
towards his lip.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I mean, that's just not gonna be good for him.
Right.
I don't want him to have jaw surgery, like you were saying, and things with his teeth. So I do have to take him back, and they wanted to wait until around 2 or 3 to reevaluate him because they took over 2 inches the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, so they want to reevaluate him and see if he'll grow into it, see if his face will catch up, but I don't know. I don't think it will because he's just growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And is
Yes.
is your daughter eating like crazy?
Yeah, she is pretty I mean, she eats so much, and there's not a food we've given her that she doesn't love, and so she just eats everything, and so it's a lot to keep up with sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really
But
feel like I can keep up with it.
yeah, I've seen some of your posts, and just he's eating so much. How old is he now? He's
He's 16 months.
16 months old. Okay, so he's just a little older than
Yeah.
Annie. Yeah, so I feel like she's just starting now that she's getting more and more used to the solid foods. She's starting to become more like just
Yeah. Give
wanting
me whatever.
all of that. So we'll see what the next few months bring. But
Do you notice any issue like for Owen at night? I mean, I don't know if it's because his intake is so much more, but we have to put two nighttime pull-ups on him because he'll just wet through. I mean, and sometimes still after that he's wet. And I'm like, I'm not gonna wake him up in the middle of the night to change his diaper. Like I don't mess with a sleeping baby.
yes,
But I'm like, that was my solution for the longest time was to double pull up him, and now I don't have a solution for that.
yeah. Well, our solution still, because we have that problem too, but
Okay.
she still wakes up in the night.
Okay.
And so often if she's awake enough, then I'll just go ahead and change her, um, because she'll often be wet in the morning especially because she's nursing in the night, so then she's getting even more.
Right.
And so we have that. We kind of go through seasons where it's like, oh, okay, like she's lasting through the night and it's a little better.
Yeah.
And then every night happening. So
Okay.
I don't really have a solution other than if he does happen to wake up, then you can go ahead and check him. Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna. If Annie's sleeping ever decides to sleep through the night, then I'm not gonna wake her up for that.
You're gonna stay is asleep, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I don't know if that's even part of what, if it's the teething or what's continuing to keep her up in the night, or if it's because she's hungry, like legitimately hungry, or she just wants comfort or whatever. But she wants up, wants a nurse, and so.
So yeah. She doesn't have any hemihypertrophy or anything like that? Like one side
she has a very small, like her with her shoes is where you can mostly tell that her right shoe is much more snug than her left shoe.
Okay.
But so far, when she was younger, her leg was slightly longer for a while on the right side too, but unless you're looking hard, like you can't tell. At this point, it doesn't seem like any sort of significant thing, and it hasn't seemed to be. If anything, it seems even less noticeable than when she was littler. And so, yeah. Other than doing her scans and blood draw, and then taking care of her tongue, hopefully soon. As of right now, she's really typical. Really healthy. She didn't have the omphalocele or not the uneven limb growth or I don't know, any of the other things that can come with it. She's been pretty typical. And so I had heard the description one time that for a lot of people, Beckwith Wiedemann is kind of like a box. And so you don't have to think about it or it's like you can put it in a box.
Yeah.
And then days that you need to open it up and, consider it and do what you need to do, and then you can put it back. And then other days it's just life as normal, usual. And I know for some people, the box is always like, there's always things that, that you have to be thinking about. But for us, she's been really typical, happy, healthy. I mean, just, in those months and weeks leading up, and even after she was born, like there's just so much unknown, and we still don't know. There's still the risk of cancer, but as of right now, we're just really enjoying every minute. And one thing I wanted to share, just that our family does, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't see this as like a horrible problem for our family or this like mistake that's gonna, just be a big problem for our family. We, as soon as we learned about the diagnosis, we've got two older children, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my husband and I we decided we wanted to let this be an opportunity for us to, as a family, care for Annie and work together in like making sure that we can take care of her, even if it's going to be hard, and let it be an opportunity to, like I said, like trust the Lord. And so one thing that we do is, leading up to her scans every 3 months, we decided, instead of having it be something that we are stressed and worried and really concerned about, which of course there is that, but we decide to, after she has her scan, every 3 months we have a scan ablation, and and so we have like a Swiss roll cake that I make, and then we made this picture that's like a tree, and every 3 months we do our thumbprints to add leaves to the tree, and there is to say, like, we know that God is faithful, and so hopefully every scan ablation will be a celebration that her scan is clear and that she is healthy. But even if a scan comes back and there's concern, we can still celebrate and say God is good, we trust him, he is faithful. And so we'll still put our fingerprint up there to say, like, God is good, and we will trust him and we will celebrate even in hard times. And so we intend to have our scanibration no matter what the results.
Right.
And so that's something kind of special that we decided to try to do with our family and just make it kind of almost a fun thing, something to look forward to that the kids can join in on, and we can
I think that's
enjoy
so
Annie. And
awesome. That's all.
sorry, what?
I think that's so
Oh,
awesome. Yeah, no, that's so
thanks.
cool.
Yeah, so we've been enjoying that. That's kind of the kids love it,
Aw,
and eventually Annie will be able to enjoy the cake portion of it, and um
yeah.
uh get to, yeah.
How does she do with them? Does she handle the scans well? Maybe she will, as especially with doing all that, she'll start to like be like, ooh, like enjoy going. Owen has such a hard time with them.
Yeah, so her scams have gotten increasingly more difficult, and she's supposed actually today she was supposed to have her whole appointment, but because of our insurance switch, we are like trying to figure that all out, and so hopefully that'll happen soon. Um, uh, so anyways, but her last scan was pretty. She was fighting pretty hard by the end. She was not happy. Her blood draw has been hard, except whoever we had for blood draw last time was amazing, and she didn't EI, which was amazing,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she, at the previous ones, have fought pretty hard, and now she's just getting bigger and stronger. So the one we had before that was awful, and the guy, like, there was a big problem, and he didn't do it right, and had to do it again, and like
Oh,
it was very unpleasant. So that was very traumatic for me, at least.
yeah.
But anyway, so um, we'll see how she does this upcoming one, whenever that is, hopefully soon. But all of her previous ones, we've gotten through. They've been a little,
Yeah.
there's been some struggle, but
Do you find that they don't take you guys seriously if you tell them how strong she is, like to prepare them?
um, I guess maybe I haven't experienced that just because she hasn't been like, she's been smaller so far. Now that she's
Right.
getting bigger, I feel like could be. And even her last one, I was prepared to really struggle with her, and then it was like a perfect blood draw, and so she didn't even fight. And so I could see that, because she is, I mean, uh it's a little frightening sometimes how much if I'm holding her and she's like, I'm going to get down now. It's like, well, I need to set you down instead of you jumping out of my arms, but your
Yeah.
strength is, I can barely hold you now. So
Yeah.
there's been some close calls with like, wow, you are strong. I was not prepared for that. So yeah, so we'll see how the upcoming, how it goes.
Goes. Yeah, my sister, my younger sister is 15 and she is living with us right now because of my back surgery I had almost a month ago. I can't lift anything. They're like, you can't lift
Yeah,
anything heavier than a gallon of milk. I'm like, my son never weighed a gallon of milk outside the womb, like ever. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So she's been living with us and she's been lifting him from up and down things. Well, we were in the store the other day and she picked him up because he was trying to get food, of course, something. And she picked him up and he did the classic like arch of the back, arms up.
yeah. Yes.
And she was like, "Oh my God," she almost dropped him. And I'm just like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do when he's 2 and 3 throwing full blown fits?"
I know. Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know what if there's like a commonality in temperament of Beckwith Wiedemann children. My oldest daughter has a very strong personality, but I never remember her being as intense as Annie. I mean, Annie is delightful and so like generally chill and enjoyable, but if she gets angry, I mean, it is so intense, so such a strong reaction. Even when
Uh,
she was like little tiny, I remember, I mean, I didn't know that a 4-month old could show anger, but if she was eating and there was like a momentary break, because we needed to adjust her and the bottle came out of her mouth. I mean, she was angry,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I'm interested to see how this is going to go as she gets older. And
It kind of makes me nervous.
yes, yes, because even with how strong of personality my older daughter is, I don't remember it being anything like this at that age. And so we'll see if
I'm
that continues.
there's not one person, not one BWS family member or person that I have talked to that has described their child differently than what you just did. I mean,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, so it has to be part of it because everyone is like, oh my gosh, they're so smiley, so happy, but if you make them mad, it's like a whole different world. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I just like the normal things that Owen does that I'm just like, or that my older son would do. I don't see like Owen just does it times like 20. Like, what in the world? Like, even like he'll like smack his head on things if he's angry, he'll hit. And so part of,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I
Annie,
don't know.
yeah.
If you have tips
And
on the hitting, I don't know what to do with that because part of me is like, okay, I mean, he's still little, but he's very strong. I'm like, and he can't just go around hitting people. I mean, it's just not okay. But at the same time, like, I have to be very careful with how I correct him. Hey, Rebecca,
mm,
I have to be very careful with how I correct him because depending on how I correct him, he gets worse.
right. Yeah. I feel like Annie maybe has a little bit of a tender spot because the times that I've gotten really, because she'll like hit her brother and sister if she's not feeling like getting snuggly and they decide to come get in her space, she just whacks them. Or if she's angry, she's gonna find something to throw or to hit.
Yes.
Like she's like, "Where's something I can throw?" And I'm like, "You're 12 months old. Why are you trying to like release this anger in such a physical?" I don't know. It's
So fun.
intense, but the times that she has done that, and I've kind of gotten serious and been like, "No," she sees that I'm serious, she'll just like burst into tears.
Oh,
And so I need to figure out also how to uh I want to be serious about that because I hope we can help her learn and grow, that that's not going to be okay, but also it didn't take a very stern voice for her to be like, "Oh, I did something wrong." So
right.
we'll see if that tender side of her can help for some of
It
that.
can
Like,
prevail.
yeah, we'll see. But then, yeah, I just will have to be mindful about how I will interact with her in that way.
Yeah,
But
that's so funny because it definitely makes me feel better to hear so many people say that they experience that with their child because it is hard for me because I'm very outspoken and when it comes to my kids like I have the tendency if like so, you get looks from strangers or whatever I just want to defend my babies but like I know that I'm going to have to keep that in check because I'm like people already think he's so much older. And so I know when
mm,
2 or 3 and doing what a normal 2 or 3 year old does, throw a fit because they don't get their way, like people are going to look at me like, why is your 6 year old acting ridiculous in Target? Like,
right, yeah, that is hard. And I mean, we're talking about Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, so I won't touch on this too much. But like I said, my older daughter with her strong personality, like we've had some things, and that's something that I've had to grow and learn, which I think maybe has helped me with Annie, with my older daughter Molly, just being able to like know that what other people see, like they don't see everything, and so I can just step back and not like I can just focus in on what is happening with my daughter, and I don't need to be parenting based on what I think other people think I need to do because I've done that and that doesn't go well.
yeah,
So so instead of parenting on what like the stranger thinks I'm supposed to do, what I think the stranger thinks I'm supposed to do, then
yeah,
I can just do what I know that I feel is being a good and faithful parent to my daughter. And so it's been the same even with Annie, with some of the other, like we were talking about, just wondering what, or like people noticing the tongue or things like that. And do I need to tell them about Beckwith Wiedemann every time anyone makes a comment? Doing like all those things, and just having freedom to like let it go if I need to, or being able to speak about it if I need to, but not letting what I think other people are thinking about me change what
you would do.
right to do in the moment. And so, but that's really hard. I still struggle with that. And
Yeah, because it's like, oh, if only you like just knew. Like, I just feel so frustrated with it sometimes. And I just hope with like through doing this and more people being willing to, come on and share their stories, I just hope that people start to realize that I think Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome is out there more than people think.
yeah,
Like, I think it's out there a lot more than people think, and I think it's just been undiagnosed for so long. Um, I remember just thinking back now that Owen has, he's diagnosed. My mom was so funny. She was like, "Do you think," she brought up this one kid that, my brother played against in grade school. She was like, "He was so big," and like, so she was like, "Do you think?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's possible, but you're not gonna know." Um,
right.
do you have any families over in Texas that you have connected with that have Beckwith babies, or no?
Yes. When I got the diagnosis, I shared a little thing on my Instagram. I'm pretty open, and so I said we got this diagnosis, and one of my friends has a friend who's not too far whose daughter had Beckwith-Wiedemann or has Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome,
Okay.
and so it was like a friend of a friend. But then another, we had two because another friend who I didn't know so well, but my at the church that we used to go to, my husband knew him, and like during the time that we were like closer to them and friends with them, they had their daughter who I think is like 4 or 5 now, and she had Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. So as soon as he saw that, he reached out to us and gave us a lot of info,
Oh, great.
and so, and then the friend of a friend also connected with me. And so I immediately had some people who said, if you have any questions or, just an immediate support system of people who had been through it, as well as since then being able to connect with some people on Instagram and get the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And all has been super helpful and great to um, connect with. And so I guess I don't think I've ever in person connected with anyone, but I have these people even close by that I I could, but just I feel like even just through
Yeah.
online texting and messaging and stuff, that's been really helpful.
Well, that's good
So,
because I feel like that's something I wish I would have had in the very beginning.
mm,
Since starting this, it's been awesome because there's now like a whole network of us that are sharing
right.
stories and connecting and like because every story is so different. But I didn't have any of that, so I felt so alone. Like I was just like, how can I have a baby that has this and nobody knows what it is? Like I just felt so helpless. I was like, this is just not okay. Like, and I mean, I guess that happens with everything. Like every syndrome or at one point isn't known about, I guess. But I'm happy that you had that because especially since
Yeah,
you knew early. I feel like I would
right.
have been more scared if I didn't have that kind of system and knew ahead of time. Because we found out he was formally diagnosed 2 weeks later, but we found
Okay.
out like right before we left the hospital, I had, like the handout sheet of everything, and I was like, oh, he had. I like I
Yeah.
like knew. I'm like, there's my husband was in denial, but I was like, he's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really thankful. I feel like just the support that I had, and even having the diagnosis, and um, just all the circumstances surrounding it all was really uncommonly like
Yeah.
just God's generosity that I did not deserve. But I know we had a lot of people praying for us also, and I mean not to, like I feel like there was just um, I don't know, in those hardest moments, or those moments that are hard or can seem overwhelming, I feel like those are sometimes the moments that you feel the peace of God the most. And so I felt like I really experienced that those first couple of weeks of having her and like leading up and then having her. And while like the day before we went in to be induced, we were moving. We were supposed to move like a few weeks before that, but we got the keys like the day before
No.
we went to the hospital. And so just there were several circumstances, and we were um, like an hour from the hospital was an hour from our new house. And so we were trying to move and have a baby and be in the ICU
My
and
God.
all at the same time. And somehow, I mean, I think it was just the Lord giving me peace. All of that was not, it was, there was just peace. And we had, like I said, a really great support system and family and friends who were there with us. And so I realize that that's not everyone's story. And sometimes there's a great amount of weightiness and difficulty um, that we go through, and some people have more like traumatic experiences with it, and there have been for sure some hard moments or
Right.
times that were really unsure or difficult, but I I just know for me personally that my faith and my trust in God has been what's allowed me to walk through it with a lot of joy and a lot of peace that I don't think I would have otherwise. And so
Awesome.
just wanted to share that with everyone out there who might be listening.
Oh,
So yeah.
there's a lot of people listening. Let me scroll through. Some people are um commenting. Let's see. Rebecca, I know exactly what you mean. I think you and I have had very similar experiences, Teresa. Rebecca, we probably have. um, I think what is awesome, Jessica said, is anyone on disability for their babies. I found out my son will need surgery on his leg in a few years.
Mm.
Have you, that's also been a question that people have asked me. Um,
Mm.
have you tried to get that for her, disability for her, or no?
I haven't. She was on Medicaid for her first year, and so that covered most everything. But then that was the same. Like Medicaid was the one who like was denying her tongue reduction surgery and all that. And so now we don't have. We just have uh, our own private
Right.
carrier. But I was just talking today with my mother-in-law, and she was like, I think there might be something you can look into getting. And so I think that it would be good to pursue, but I kind of don't know what the options are, what she would qualify for.
Right.
Um, so I don't know.
Alicia's on here, and she actually said, I'm just now relying on my faith and stepping back into church. That's awesome. And she said her daughter is on disability. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I heard my son is not. When I looked into it, I forget what they told me. Um, but I think if you fight for it, I think Alicia fought pretty hard for her daughter, and I think if you fight for it, that she would get it. I think
hmm.
all of them, all the Beckwith babies would, because I mean they have needs outside of what
Hmm.
a child needs. So yeah, I think it's something I'm going to look into too, because a lot of people have mentioned it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably wise and something that I, even just looking back at going through the like Medicaid and the tongue reduction surgery, I think probably if I had pushed harder and not taken everything that had been said to me, I was like, oh, I guess this is just how it is. That there's certain things that you might have to fight in the system to
Yeah.
fight for your child and get the help that they need when otherwise they might not get it, or
Right.
um, get it in the way that they need. And so I'm learning the whole everything involving appointments and insurance and referrals and all of that is a pretty new world for me. And so that's been one of the more overwhelming things for me, is just figuring out how to do all of that. That's been
Yeah.
one of the harder things, of just all the calls and appointments
Yeah.
and
It's a
everything.
lot. I
Yeah.
think people realize how much it is, even for babies, like you said, like your daughter who um, relatively is leading a normal life. She
Right.
still has a
Yeah.
lot that she has to do.
I know. And so many of them have to see a lot more specialists than she's seeing. And so I know that it's um, even so much more for a lot of people out there. And so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's hard. It's
Yeah. I think that's one of
a
the
lot
things too that
of it.
like really drives me with this stuff is that like I don't feel like we should have to push that hard for this kind of stuff. Like I
Right.
feel like
And
what in the world?
right. Yeah. It would be awesome if, yeah, if there's more awareness and more, yeah, just I feel so lost some of the time. And it's like, okay, we're changing insurance, so we have to find a new provider. And just, I don't, like, where do I even start to find out who? There's just so much that even one, like a simple change like that, that
Yeah, like a pediatrician.
yeah, that it just can feel so confusing or overwhelming. And so, and it's made me have a lot more, like, not just for Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, but just in general, like all of those who have special needs, and just learning to be a lot more understanding and sympathetic, and desiring to, like for everyone who needs the different types of care, that it can be available, and or just not such a scary, confusing world to walk through. But
Yeah.
not really sure what all the solutions are, but awareness is definitely one of them. And so I'm glad that you're doing this, and this has been awesome. It's
Yeah. Well,
really off and been so great.
thank you so much for I'm sorry that I that's my MO. I have gotten time zones and all sorts of things wrong all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
What time is it
I
for you?
I feel like that's something I would have considered, but I was just like, oh, 8:30, okay. And then so I was not prepared at all to. And then you don't have the app for your phone to be
So
on the.
I do have the app, but some people on here were saying they don't have the app, and I could see them, I could see their comments, but all of a sudden once I added you as a friend, it allowed me to add you onto the screen. It was so weird, but I don't think that I'm friends with every single person that is part of the page, so I'm so confused. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, when I tried to join, like just through, not on the app, but just through the Google Chrome, um, it said like join like with the app, and that was the only option. So I was okay. Let me
Weird.
add the app. That took a few minutes, and then
Huh.
even once I got on there, it took a little while for
Yeah.
you to finally. So that's
I
great.
I'm like maybe I thought okay I'll like work the kids out in episode 1, 2, or 3, but there's still I mean I don't know I think it's me I think it's operator error.
No, I don't know what was happening there. I don't think that was just you. So might have been a little me. But yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, and thank you for sticking with it and making it
Yeah,
happen. So
yeah, no problem.
yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that some people that don't have it as rough as it can be do sometimes feel like, oh, well, I don't know if I have anything that can help someone, but it does help someone. And I think it even helps people that do have it a little rougher that there could be a light at the end of the tunnel. Like it's not always going to be this hard. Um, so I think that everybody's story, whether, you know, BWS is really severe for their child or not as severe, I definitely think your story has impacted a lot of people. Even probably you won't even realize it. Um, but I think it's awesome that you came on and shared. Last minute too.
well, thank you so much. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good to be able to share, and so thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, have
All
a good
right,
night.
you too. Good night.
Bye. So we finally got her on. I'm going to scroll through and just see if I missed anyone. Create a journal. Alicia, I'm gonna message you because I want to go over the disability thing with you. I know that you were fighting really hard for Penelope. Um, let's see. Let's see what I missed. I quit my job to stay home. I did as well. Yes. Oh, thanks, Rebecca. Um, Alicia, yes, we need to reschedule yours too. Yours and Alex, we need to reschedule. Um, yeah, so I am so thankful for everyone, especially during these lives, that are patient enough to kind of wait until we figure out getting the people on the screen. One of these days I'll get it together and have every single kink worked out. But and like always, I say every time, if you're someone that watches, but you're not really comfortable sharing your story yet, whenever you're ready, we're here. We want to share your story. We want to get people's story out there. I know some people's stories are like Kelley's and they're not as stressful. And then other people, their stories are a little bit more stressful. And I think that is why awareness is so important, because when I Googled things and when I looked up Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, you see the hard parts of it. And I don't think you see anything in the middle. I think you see, cancer, cancer, cancer. And then you see, oh, this is the syndrome that you want your baby to have if your baby's going to have a syndrome. And there's so many different levels in between. There's just so many variables. It's just, it's not as simple as saying it's this or this. So anyone that wants to come on and share your story and just help raise awareness, we are so very thankful. I hate that. I know it's frustrating. A lot of times, I think people think that I over advocate, I'll say, because Owen so far has been good. But I mean, he has had some challenges and he has had some struggles. And, he's probably going to face his second tongue reduction, at least in the next year or so. So, that was hard, his 7 weeks. But anyway, thank you all for being patient. Thank you all for joining and watching and giving your input and, just sharing. That's what this is all about. So, I have to look. I think our next one is July 1st. I have to check and I'll be hopefully more on top of it. This past weekend was crazy because it was my best friend's birthday. It was my anniversary. It was all sorts of craziness. Um, and Alicia and Alex, we will get dates for your guys's because I think your stories need to be shared. And Alicia, you could share a lot. I know you have a lot going on with your daughter, and you just went through the disability thing, so that'll be helpful for people, and insurance too. So I will see you guys live again July 1st. And yeah, thank you. Feel free to share this. Feel free to tell people to forward if the first 20 minutes of us trying to figure it out. And yeah, have a good night. Bye.